The morning sky over Denver turned dark as massive alien ships blocked out the sun. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the military base, watching the black vessels hover silently above the city. His radio crackled with panicked voices from around. The world, London, was dark. Tokyo had gone silent. New York City reported strange creatures moving through the streets. Jake had been a soldier for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The ships were huge, each one the size of a football stadium. They made no sound as they floated in the air like giant metal clouds. Red lights blinked along their edges, and Jake could see smaller craft moving around them like angry insects. "Sir, we have incoming transmission," said Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, running up to him with a communication device. Her face was pale, and her hands shook as she held the radio. Jake took the device and listened. The voice that came through was not human. It spoke English, but the words sounded wrong, like they were being forced through a machine. "People of Earth," the voice said, "I am War Commander Vexful of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. We have conquered 17 star systems before yours. Each one fell within 2 days. You will not be different." Jake felt his stomach drop. He had always known that life might exist on other worlds, but he never thought they would come to Earth, and certainly not like this. "We do not waste time with long battles," the alien voice continued. "We do not destroy cities with weapons. We use something much better. We use the Vorthik." Kate looked at Jake with confused eyes. "What's a Vorthik?" She whispered. They got their answer quickly. The radio filled with screaming voices from military bases around the world. Reports came in fast and terrible. Something was hunting human soldiers, something that moved like a shadow and killed without mercy. "Base Alpha 7 is under attack," a voice cried through the static. "We can't see them properly. They're too fast. They're in the building. Oh God, they're in the building." The transmission cut to silence. Jake grabbed his weapon and shouted orders to his men. "Everyone to defensive positions. Lock down all entrances. No one goes anywhere alone." But even as he spoke, he knew they were not ready for what was coming. How could they be? They had trained to fight other humans, not alien monsters from another world. More reports came in. The creatures were 8 feet tall and moved on 2 legs like humans, but that was where the similarity ended. They had long arms that ended in claws sharp enough to cut through steel. Their skin was dark and seemed to change color to match their surroundings. Most terrifying of all were their eyes, which glowed with a blue light that could be seen in complete darkness. "They're not just killing randomly," reported a scientist from the research center. "They're hunting. They seem to know exactly where people are hiding. They can see heat like a snake sees a warm mouse." Jake listened to the reports and felt fear creep up his spine. These Vorthik were not just animals. They were smart. They worked together. They had been made to hunt and kill, and they were very good at it. The first Vorthik reached the Denver base 3 hours after the ships arrived. Jake was in the command center when the lights went out. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red light. Somewhere in the darkness, something roared. "Contact on level 2, Kate reported, her voice tight with fear. "It's moving toward the main corridor." Jake could hear his men shooting, but the gunfire was wild and scattered. The Vorthik was too fast, too smart. It knew how to use the darkness. It knew how to use fear. "Fall back to the secure area," Jake ordered. "Everyone move now." They ran through the red-lit corridors, their footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind them, the sounds of battle grew quieter. One by one, the voices on the radio stopped talking. Jake and Kate reached the secure bunker with 12 other soldiers. They sealed the heavy door and tried to contact other bases. Most did not answer. The few that did respond had the same story. The Vorthik were everywhere. They were unstoppable. "How is this possible?" Kate asked, checking her weapon for the 10th time. "How can creatures from another world be so good at hunting us?" Jake looked at the tactical display on his computer. Red dots showed where bases had gone silent. There were too many of them. The attack was happening everywhere at once. "They've done this before," he said quietly. 17 other worlds. They've had practice. Through the bunker's security cameras, Jake watched the empty corridors of his base. Everything was quiet. Now, too quiet. He knew the Vorthik was still out there, waiting, hunting. The radio crackled one more time. It was the alien commander again. 12 hours have passed, Vexval said. Your military bases are silent. Your cities are ours. Tomorrow, we will begin the second phase. There is no escape. There is no hope. Earth belongs to the Zephyrian Empire now. Jake turned off the radio and looked at his remaining soldiers. They were good people, brave people, but they were not enough. Nothing seemed to be enough against the Vorthik. Outside, the alien ships continued their silent watch over the conquered world. Inside the bunker, the last defenders of Earth prepared for what might be their final battle. None of them knew that salvation would come from the most unexpected source of all. None of them could have imagined that Earth's greatest weapon against the galaxy's most feared predator was sleeping peacefully in houses across the world, curled up in sunny windows and dreaming of mice. Dr. Helen Parker sat in her basement, holding her orange cat close to her chest. Whiskers purred softly, unaware that the world above them had changed forever. Helen had been a veterinarian for 30 years before she retired, and she had seen many animals in her time. But she had never been more grateful for any animal than she was for Whiskers right now. The basement was dark, except for a small flashlight that Helen kept pointed at the floor. She had heard the terrible sounds from upstairs an hour ago. Something had broken through her front door with a crash that shook the whole house. Then she heard footsteps that were too heavy to be human. Helen lived alone in a quiet neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. Her neighbors were mostly elderly people like herself, and the street was usually peaceful. But tonight, there had been screaming. Tonight, there had been sounds that no human throat could make. Whiskers suddenly lifted his head and looked toward the basement stairs. His green eyes were wide and alert. Helen felt him tense in her arms. The cat had always been good at sensing danger, better than any guard dog she had ever known. "What is it, boy?" She whispered. The answer came in the form of a soft thud from the floor above. Then another. Something was walking through her house, and it was looking for her. Helen had listened to the emergency radio broadcasts before the power went out. She knew about the alien invasion. She knew about the creatures, called Vorthik, that were hunting humans. She also knew that hiding in her basement probably would not save her. The footsteps stopped directly above them. Helen held her breath and felt, her heart beating so loud she was sure the creature could hear it. Whiskers was perfectly still, but she could feel his muscles coiled like springs under his fur. The basement door opened with a long, slow creak. Helen pointed her flashlight at the stairs and immediately wished she had not. The thing that looked down at them was like something from a nightmare. It was tall and thin, with arms that were too long for its body. Its skin was dark and seemed to shimmer in the light. But worst of all were its eyes, which glowed with a cold blue fire. The Vorthik tilted its head and made a sound like a cross between a growl and a purr. It had found its prey, and it was pleased. It began to walk down the stairs, moving with the careful grace of a born hunter. Each step was perfectly placed, making almost no sound. Helen could see its claws, which were longer than kitchen knives, and looked sharp enough to cut through bone. This was how she was going to die. After 73 years of life, she was going to be killed by a monster from another world. The thought made her angry more than afraid. She had survived cancer, the death of her husband, and the loneliness of old age. She was not going to give up without a fight. But before Helen could move, Whiskers jumped from her arms. The cat landed on the basement floor and immediately positioned himself between Helen and the alien creature. His back was arched, his tail was puffed up like a bottle brush, and his ears were flat against his head. He looked like an angry orange ball of fur, and Helen almost laughed despite her fear. The Vorthik paused on the stairs. Its glowing eyes looked down at the small animal with what might have been confusion. In all its training, in all the worlds it had conquered, it had never encountered anything like this. The creature was tiny, maybe 1/20th the size of a human. It had no weapons, no armor, no technology. It should have been irrelevant, but Whiskers did not seem to know he was supposed to be afraid. The cat let out a sound that Helen had never heard before. It was not a meow or a purr or even a hiss. It was a sound of pure rage, the kind of sound that wild animals make when they are cornered and ready to fight to the death. The Vorthik took another step down the stairs. It was curious now. This small creature was behaving in a way that did not match its size. It was acting like a predator, not prey. That was when Whiskers attacked. The cat moved faster than Helen's eyes could follow. One moment he was on the basement floor, the next he was flying through the air with his claws extended. He hit the Vorthik right in the face, his claws finding the creature's glowing eyes with perfect accuracy. The alien scream was unlike anything Helen had ever heard. It was the sound of pain and surprise and something else. Fear. The galaxy's most feared predator was afraid of her house cat. The Vorthik stumbled backward, clawing at its face. Blue blood ran between its fingers. It tried to grab Whiskers, but the cat was too fast. He darted between the creature's legs, slashing at its ankles with his claws. Helen watched in amazement as her 15-pound cat fought an 8-foot alien monster and won. The Vorthik could not land a single blow. Every time it reached for Whiskers, the cat was somewhere else, always attacking, always moving. Finally, the creature had enough. It turned and ran up the stairs, still holding its damaged eyes. Helen heard it crash through her house, and then out the front door. The most dangerous hunter in the galaxy had been defeated by a house cat. Whiskers walked back to Helen as if nothing had happened. He sat down and began cleaning his paws, removing the blue alien blood from his claws with the same care he usually used to clean away bits of his dinner. "Good boy," Helen whispered, scratching behind his ears. "Very good. Boy." She did not know that similar scenes were playing out all over the city. In apartments and houses, in pet stores and animal shelters, cats were meeting the Vorthik and finding them wanting. The aliens had created the perfect predator for hunting intelligent, tool-using species. But they had never encountered Earth's natural predators, creatures that had been shaped by millions of years of evolution to be perfect killers. The Vorthik had been designed to be smart, fast, and strong. But cats were something else entirely. They were instinct-made flesh, reflexes honed by countless generations of hunting. They did not think about fighting. They simply fought, and they wondered out Helen picked up Whiskers and carried him upstairs to survey the damage to her house. The front door was destroyed, and there were claw marks on the walls. But she was alive, and that was what mattered. Outside, she could hear more sounds of battle. But now she knew something that the aliens did not. Earth was not as helpless as they thought. Humanity had allies they had never counted on. The invasion had met its first real resistance, and it had come from the most unexpected source of all. War Commander Thexvol stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the reports that filled his screens. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before: confusion. "Explain this to me again," he said to his intelligence officer. The younger Zephyrian looked nervous as he pointed to the data. "Sir, we have lost contact with 37 Vorthic units in the past 6 hours. All of them were operating in what the humans call residential areas." Vexval's 4 eyes narrowed. "Equipment failure?" "No, sir. The biomonitors show that the Vorthic are still alive, but they are displaying signs of severe stress. Many have optical damage. Some are refusing to continue their missions." This was impossible. The Vorthic had conquered 17 worlds without a single failure. They were the perfect biological weapon, designed by the best scientists in the Zephyrian Empire. They did not retreat. They did not fail. They certainly did not develop stress. "What is causing this optical damage?" Vexval demanded. "The reports are unclear, sir. The Vorthic describe encounters with small, 4-legged creatures that they call tiny demons. These creatures appear to be some kind of Earth predator that we did not account for in our planning." Vexval felt his stomach twist. He had studied Earth for months before the invasion. He knew about human weapons, human tactics, human physiology. He had planned for every possible resistance. But he had not paid attention to the other creatures that lived on this planet. "Show me the combat footage," he ordered, the main screen filled with images from a Vorthic's visual sensors. Vexval watched as his perfect hunter entered a human dwelling. The creature moved with its usual deadly grace, following a heat signature, to a basement. Everything was proceeding normally. Then the small Earth creature appeared. Vexval had seen many predators in his travels across the galaxy. He had seen the acid-spitting kralloids of Vega Prime. He had seen the telepathic shadows of Rigel 7. But he had never seen anything like this. The creature was tiny, maybe the size of a Zephyrian infant. It had fur and 4 legs, and should have been nothing more than a minor pest. But it moved like liquid lightning, attacking with a ferocity that made Vexval's blood run cold. "Pause the recording," he said. The image froze on the moment of impact. The small creature's claws were extended toward the Vorthic's eyes with surgical precision. This was not a random attack. This was a calculated strike at the most vulnerable point of a much larger opponent. "How many of these creatures are on Earth?" Vexval asked. "Our estimates suggest several 100 million, sir. The humans appear to keep them as companions in their homes." Vexval felt his confidence cracking. Several 100 million predators living among the human population. No wonder the invasion was not going according to plan. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Dr. Alex Chun was having the same realization from the opposite perspective. The xenobiologist had been hiding in an abandoned research facility when the first reports started coming in. Human survivors were using emergency radio frequencies to share information, and the news was incredible. "This is Portland Base, does. Anyone copy?" A woman's voice crackled through the radio. "We copy, Portland. This is Dr. Chun in Colorado. What's your situation?" "We have multiple reports of successful civilian resistance. The alien creatures are being repelled by domestic cats. Repeat, house cats are driving off the alien hunters." Alex almost dropped the radio. "Can you confirm that?" "Confirmed. I've seen it myself. My neighbor's tabby cat took down one of those things. The creature ran away like its tail was on fire." More reports came in throughout the day. A calico cat in Seattle had protected a family of 5. A black tom in Houston had cleared an entire apartment building of Vorthic. In New York, a one-eyed alley cat had become the leader of a group of survivors. Alex began to understand what was happening. The Vorthic were designed to hunt intelligent, tool-using species. They were programmed to expect certain behaviors from their prey. But cats were not intelligent in the way humans were. They were something else entirely. The aliens built the perfect predator, Alex said into his radio, but they built it to hunt us. They never considered that we share our planet with other predators. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came through the static. Doctor, are you saying that cats are our secret weapon? I'm saying that cats are perfect antivorthic units. They're small, fast, and completely fearless. They don't think about tactics or strategy. They just attack. And the Vorthic don't know how to handle that. Jake was quiet for a moment. Doctor, I need you to help us coordinate something. If cats are our best weapon against these things, then we need to get as many cats as possible to the places where they're needed most. Alex smiled for the first time since the invasion began. I think I can help with that. The plan that emerged over the next few hours was unlike anything in military history. Human survivors began gathering cats from animal shelters, pet stores, and abandoned houses. They created mobile cat deployment teams, rushing feline reinforcements to areas where Vorthic were still active. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan found herself leading a squad of soldiers and 6 cats toward a group of survivors trapped in a shopping mall. The cats rode in special carriers that could be opened quickly when they reached their destination. This is the strangest mission I've ever been on, said Sergeant Bob Martinez, carrying a carrier with a large Maine Coon inside. Just remember, Kate said, the cats are in charge once we make contact. Our job is to support them, not the other way around. They reached the mall and immediately saw 3 Vorthic prowling outside the main entrance. The aliens had the building surrounded, and the humans inside were trapped. Kate opened the cat carriers. What happened next was like watching a perfectly choreographed dance of destruction. The 6 cats spread out and approached the Vorthic from different angles. The aliens, focused on the humans inside the building, did not notice the small predators until it was too late. The attack was swift and devastating. The cats moved like they had been training for this moment their entire lives. They went straight for the Vorthic's eyes, claws extended, fear absent from their actions. Within minutes, all 3 alien hunters were retreating, their optical systems damaged, their confidence shattered. The cats sat down and began grooming themselves, their job complete. Command, this is Sullivan, Kate reported. Mall secured. Civilian casualties 0. Cat casualties 0. Copy that, Sullivan? Good work. Return to base for reassignment. As they walked back to their vehicle, Kate looked at the 6 cats that had just saved dozens of human lives. They were ordinary house cats, the kind of animals that millions of people around the world loved and cared for every day. You know, she said to Sergeant Martinez, I always knew cats were special. I just never knew they were this special. Above them, in the Zephyrian command ship, War Commander Vex Vel was beginning to realize that his perfect invasion was turning into his worst nightmare. The tiny demons were everywhere, and his mighty Vorthic were starting to refuse their missions. The first time in the history of the Zephyrian Empire, their biological weapon had met its match. The counterattack began at dawn. For the first time since the invasion started, human forces were going on the offensive. But this was not the kind of military operation that any general had ever planned before. Sergeant Ryan Blake checked his equipment one more time. He had his rifle, his radio, his medical kit, and his most important team member, a gray tabby cat named Smokey. The cat sat calmly in his special carrier, looking out at the world with bright yellow eyes. You ready for this, buddy? Ryan asked. Smokey meowed once, as if to say he was born ready. Ryan's team was part of the 1st Joint Human-Feline Assault Unit. Their mission was to retake the downtown area of Denver, which had been occupied by Vorthic forces for 2 days. Intelligence. Reports suggested that at least 12 alien hunters were using the area as a base of operations. Remember, Captain Jake Morrison said over the radio, the cats are your primary weapons. Everything else is support. Let them do what they do best. Ryan's team moved through the empty streets with careful precision. The city was eerily quiet, with abandoned cars and broken windows, telling the story of the invasion's first day. But now humanity was fighting back, and they had the perfect allies. The first Vorthik appeared on the roof of a bank building. Its glowing blue eyes scanned the street below, looking for human heat signatures. It was a perfect hunter, designed to be the ultimate predator. But it had never hunted anything like Smokey. Ryan opened the cat carrier. Smokey stepped out, took one look at the alien creature, and his whole body changed. His fur stood up, his ears went back, and he made a sound that was part growl, part battle cry. "Go get him, Smokey," Ryan whispered. The cat moved like a gray shadow, climbing up the side of the building with incredible speed. The Vorthik noticed him too late. By the time the alien hunter tried to react, Smokey was already airborne, claws extended, aiming for the creature's glowing eyes. The Vorthik's scream echoed through the empty streets. It stumbled backward, clawing at its face, blue blood streaming between its fingers. Smokey landed on the roof, turned around, and attacked again. Ryan watched through his binoculars as his feline partner systematically destroyed the galaxy's most feared predator. The Vorthik tried to fight back, but it was like trying to catch lightning with bare hands. Smokey was everywhere and nowhere, always attacking, never where the alien expected him to be. Finally, the Vorthik had enough. It jumped off the building and ran down the street, still holding its damaged eyes. Smokey sat on the edge of the roof and began cleaning his paws, his work complete. "Target neutralized," Ryan reported. "Smokey is unharmed and ready for the next objective." Similar battles were happening all over the city. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan led a team with 3 cats toward the main Vorthik stronghold at the city hall. The aliens had turned the building into a fortress, but they had not planned for an assault by Earth's natural predators. A sleek black cat named Shadow led the charge, followed by a calico called Patches and a white Persian named Princess. The 3 cats moved through the building like silent death, hunting the hunters with perfect teamwork. The Vorthik inside the building had no idea what was happening. They were used to being the predators, not the prey. But now they were being stalked by creatures that were faster, more agile, and completely without fear. One by one, the alien hunters fell back, their optical systems damaged, their confidence shattered. They retreated to the upper floors, then to the roof, then finally abandoned the building entirely. "City Hall secured," Kate reported. "No human casualties. The cats are requesting tuna as payment." But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Alex Chun made a disturbing discovery. He had been studying the behavior patterns of the defeated Vorthik, and what he found changed everything. "Captain Morrison," he said over the radio, "you need to hear this. The Vorthik are not just losing battles. They're developing psychological trauma." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "I mean they're scared. These creatures that were designed to be fearless are now afraid of cats. Some of them are refusing to leave their ships. Others are having what we would call panic attacks when they see anything small and furry." This was incredible news. The Zephyrian Empire's perfect biological weapon was breaking down psychologically. The cats were not just winning individual battles. They were destroying the Vorthik's ability to fight at all. Jake saw an opportunity. "Doctor, can we use this? Can we make the situation worse for them?" "I think so. If we can increase the psychological pressure, we might be able to force them to retreat entirely." The plan they developed was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of just using cats for defense, they would use them for offense. Teams of cats would be deployed to hunt down the remaining Vorthik, turning the aliens from predators into prey. The operation began that evening. Dozens of cats were released into areas where Vorthik were still active. The cats moved through the darkness like furry ghosts, seeking out the alien hunters with the same instincts they used to hunt mice. The effect was immediate and devastating. Vorthic units that had been holding their positions for days suddenly abandoned their posts. Reports came in of alien hunters running from the city, fleeing toward their ships with cats in pursuit. On the Zephyrian command ship, War Commander Thexval watched his perfect invasion collapse. His screens showed Vorthic units retreating from every position. His most experienced hunters were reporting that they could not continue their missions. "Sir," his intelligence officer said, "we have a problem. The Vorthic are requesting extraction. They say they cannot operate in an environment with these tiny demons." Thexval felt his world crumbling. The Zephyrian Empire had built its power on the Vorthic. Without them, they were just another species with advanced technology. And now these small Earth creatures had rendered his ultimate weapon useless. "How many of these creatures are there?" he asked. "Estimates suggest over 600 million on this planet alone, sir. And they appear to be naturally occurring. The humans did not create them as weapons. They simply exist." Thexval closed his 4 eyes and tried to process this information. Earth had not defeated the Zephyrian Empire with superior technology or brilliant strategy. They had won because their planet was home to perfect natural predators that happened to be small, cute, and completely fearless. It was the most humiliating defeat in galactic history. Down on Earth, Ryan Blake was finishing his patrol with Smokey. They had cleared 6 city blocks of Vorthic, and the cat had not suffered so much as a scratch. The alien hunters had fled at the first sight of the gray tabby. "You know what, Smokey?" Ryan said, scratching behind the cat's ears. "I think we're going to win this war." Smokey purred and rubbed against Ryan's leg. He had no idea that he was part of the greatest military victory in human history. He was just a cat doing what cats do best, hunting. The message from the Zephyrian command ship arrived at dawn on the 3rd day of the invasion. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the rebuilt communication center, listening to words he had never expected to hear. "People of Earth, War Commander Thexval's voice crackled through the speakers. The Zephyrian Empire requests a ceasefire. We wish to negotiate the terms of our withdrawal." Jake looked at Lieutenant Kate Sullivan, who was holding an orange tabby cat named Marmalade. Both humans and cat seemed equally surprised by the announcement. "Sir," Kate said, "are they surrendering?" "Sounds like it," Jake replied. "Patch me through to their ship." A communication link opened, and Jake found himself talking directly to the alien commander who had conquered 17 worlds. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," Jake said. "Are you requesting a complete withdrawal from Earth?" "We are," Thexval replied. His voice sounded tired, almost defeated. "But we request a meeting first. We need to understand how this happened." Jake agreed to meet on a neutral vessel in orbit above Earth. The meeting was scheduled for the following day, which gave the humans time to prepare. Dr. Alex Chun would accompany Jake to explain the scientific aspects of what had happened. As they prepared for the meeting, reports continued to come in from around the world. The Vorthic were retreating everywhere, many of them showing signs of severe psychological trauma. Some had been seen hiding in their ships, refusing to come out. Others had been observed running away from ordinary house cats. The most remarkable report came from New York, where a one-eyed alley cat named Patches had apparently taken control of Central Park. The cat had established a territory that no Vorthic would enter, and human survivors were using the park as a safe zone. "It's like they've completely lost their nerve," Dr. Chun observed. "These creatures that were designed to be fearless are now afraid of anything small and furry." The meeting took place aboard a small transport ship halfway between Earth and the Zephyrian fleet. Jake and Dr. Chun were escorted to a conference room where War Commander Thexval waited. The alien commander was tall and thin, with 4 eyes arranged around his head and skin that shifted color with his emotions. Right now, his skin was a dull gray that Jake interpreted as sadness or defeat. "Captain Morrison," Bexwell said, "I have conquered 17 worlds. I have defeated species with technology far advanced beyond your own. But I have never encountered anything like what happened on Earth." Jake nodded. "I imagine our cats were not part of your invasion planning. We studied your military capabilities." Bexwell continued. "We analyzed your weapons, your tactics, your psychology. We prepared for every form of resistance we could imagine. But we never considered that your planet would be defended by creatures that exist outside our understanding of warfare." Dr. Chun leaned forward. "Commander, if I may ask, how did you design the Vorthok?" "They were created to be the perfect predator," Bexwell explained. "Fast, strong, intelligent, and completely without fear. They were programmed to hunt sentient species using logic and strategy. They have been unstoppable for over a century." "But that's exactly why they failed," Dr. Chun said. "Your Vorthok were designed to fight thinking opponents. Cats don't think when they fight. They just react. They have millions of years of evolution, telling them exactly how to hunt and kill. Your creatures had no defense against pure instinct." Vexvel's skin shifted to a darker shade. "You are saying that these small creatures defeated our ultimate weapons simply by being what they naturally are?" "Exactly," Jake said. "Cats are perfect predators. They're small, fast, fearless, and they attack without hesitation. Your Vorthok were built to handle strategy and technology. They couldn't handle a 15-pound ball of fur and claws that just wanted to protect its territory." "But how are there so many of them?" Bexwell asked. "Our scans show hundreds of millions of these creatures living among your population." Dr. Chun smiled. "Humans have been living with cats for thousands of years. We keep them as companions, but they're still predators. Every house cat is a descendant of wild hunters. When your Vorthok invaded their territory, they did what cats have always done. They fought back." Bexwell was quiet for a long moment. His skin shifted through several colors before settling on a pale blue that Jake guessed meant confusion. "In all our studies of conquered worlds," Bexwell said finally, "we never encountered a species that formed partnerships with other predators. Your cats are not weapons. They are not soldiers. They are simply living their lives alongside you. That's what makes them so effective," Jake said. "They don't fight because they're ordered to. They fight because they want to. Earth is their home too." The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Zephyrian Empire, which had built its power on biological warfare, agreed to a complete withdrawal from Earth. But they also made an unprecedented request. "We would like to study your cats," Bexwell said. "Not to harm them, but to understand them. Our entire military strategy has been based on the assumption that designed predators are superior to natural ones. Clearly, we were wrong." Jake and Dr. Chun exchanged glances. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We would like to establish a research facility on one of our outer worlds. A place where we can observe cats in a controlled environment. We believe that studying their behavior might teach us something about the nature of predation itself." Dr. Chun was intrigued. "You want to learn from our cats?" "We want to learn from your approach to evolution," Bexwell said. "For too long, we have believed that artificial creation is superior to natural selection. Your cats have proven us wrong." Jake considered the request carefully. "We would be willing to provide you with breeding pairs of domestic cats, but only under strict conditions. The cats must be treated well, and we want regular reports on their welfare." "Agreed," Bexwell said immediately. "We also offer something in return. The Zephyrian Empire will share our biological research with Earth. Perhaps together we can learn to create life that enhances rather than destroys." A treaty was signed that day. The Zephyrian fleet began its withdrawal from Earth's solar system. taking with them 2 breeding heirs of house cats and a complete library of Earth's knowledge about feline behavior. As Jake and Dr. Chun returned to Earth, they watched the alien ships disappear into space. The invasion was over, and humanity had won the most unlikely victory in history. "You know," Dr. Chun said, "I've been thinking about what Thexfall said about partnerships with other predators. What about it? I think that's what makes humans special. We don't just dominate our environment. We find ways to live with it. We make friends with wolves and turn them into dogs. We invite cats into our homes and give them names. Maybe that's our real strength." Jake nodded as Earth grew larger below them. "Maybe that's why we're going to survive out here among the stars. We don't just take what we want. We make alliances." Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The cities were rebuilt, the military bases were reopened, and people began to trust that the sky was safe again. But there was one major change that everyone noticed. Cats were suddenly the most popular pets on the planet. Dr. Helen Parker found herself busier than she had been since retirement. Everyone wanted to adopt a cat, and many people wanted to learn more about these amazing creatures that had saved humanity. "It's funny," she told a reporter who came to interview her. "People always thought cats were just lazy pets that slept all day. But when Earth needed defenders, they were ready." Whiskers, now famous as one of the first cats to defeat a Vorthik, was completely unchanged by his celebrity status. He spent his days sleeping in sunny windows and batting at toy mice, just as he always had. The only difference was that Helen made sure he always had the best food, the softest beds, and all the attention he could want. It seemed like the least she could do for the hero who had saved her life. Around the world, similar stories were being told. Cats who had fought alien monsters were living peaceful lives with their human families. They showed no signs of trauma from their battles. They had simply done what cats do, and then gone back to being cats. 6 months after the invasion, Jake Morrison was promoted to head of the new Interspecies Defense Division. His first official act was to establish the Feline Defense Corps, a specialized unit that would be ready if Earth ever faced another biological weapon. The Corps was staffed entirely by volunteers, both human and feline. The cats seemed to understand that they had an important job, though they still insisted on nap time and regular meals. Kate Sullivan became the first commander of the Feline Defense Corps. She worked closely with a team of 12 cats, each one a veteran of the war against the Vorthik. Her office was equipped with cat beds, climbing trees, and the finest quality cat food that money could buy. "People always ask me what it's like to command a unit of cats," she told visitors. "The truth is you don't command cats. You just point them in the right direction and try to keep up." The research station that the Zephyrians established became a model for interspecies cooperation. Reports from the facility showed that the alien scientists were amazed by what they learned from watching ordinary house cats. "The cats are teaching us about the difference between intelligence and instinct," one Zephyrian researcher reported. "They do not think.